Hey YouTube, what's up? Dr. T here from St. Petersburg in Florida. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Take a look around, see what you see that you might like. Have a look at the playlists. And today, I'd like to continue with my China series and present a two-part look at the state of artificial intelligence in China.
Everywhere. And what will happen next is you're probably thinking a lot about Amazon acquiring Whole Food, but we think that is a rather primitive activity. In China, online and offline are merged completely. There are companies that are basically able to track offline users and transmit their behavior online to be fully integrated with online activities. So to make that clear, you know when you browse on Amazon, Amazon knows what page you're on, what you clicked, what you bought, what you didn't buy, and who you are, what you've bought in the past. But imagine that happened in real life, right? If the stores and shopping malls used video cameras and other sensors and really knew what you did and transmitted up to the data servers, it will be able to online and offline make stronger predictions on what you want. It will submit that to the stores so they buy the right inventory. And then the stores will cause the right supply chain to happen, and new products will be designed based on users. So all the loop will be connected, and that will happen in not just consumption, but also in education, in many other areas. So this is something that's happening in China. I just wrote a piece for The Economist on this topic. I think this will be a phenomenal change that while Amazon Go is the most advanced, technologically advanced example, in China, autonomous stores are really coming up everywhere. And I would guess in another year when you go to China, the chances are half your shopping will be going through semi-autonomous or autonomous stores. So this is the speed at which Chinese companies implement things. So what about product? Can Chinese people build good products or good AI products? Many of you probably still remember the days when China was nothing but copycats. And that is something that definitely was the case 15 years ago. Everything was a copycat. Every single good startup was a copycat. But by first copying, I don't mean IP theft. I just mean copy the look and feel and the functionality from Yahoo to Sina, from Google to Baidu, and so on. But that copying taught the entrepreneurs how to build products to suit users. They became good product managers. And then very quickly they went to the next stage where they were inspired by American innovation still, but then they built features on top of that. So Weibo was a better product and is a better product than Twitter today. And Zhihu is a better product than Quora today. And Taobao is a better product than eBay today. And WeChat is a better product than Facebook Messenger today. Not that they were original, but they evolved quickly based on a large market and feedback. So that's the second column. The third column is now that fortified with all that knowledge, building new products, the Chinese companies are coming out with brand new innovations, products not seen in America. Shared bicycle is an example. Toutiao is a customized news. When I was at Google, we tried for years to target news, but Toutiao managed to do it before Google. Kuaishou would be too hard to explain, so I won't bother. VIP Kid is a distance learning, connecting the underpaid American teacher to the desiring to learn English Chinese student. Mobike is a shared bicycle, and our sponsor, Ant Financial, I didn't put it here because they're the sponsor, came up with a lot of financial products, including helping you to gain a higher interest rate than the bank because you use them for the transactions. And of course, naturally, what comes next is copy from China becomes, copy to China becomes copy from China, and other products are using Chinese features and inspiration. So the Chinese products, at least for mobile, are every bit as good and generally better than the American counterpart. So it's not surprising to see the Chinese company valuations are at US levels. So add these up together and they'll be roughly comparable. There are obviously cases where Google is more expensive than Baidu, but there are also cases where Meituan is much more expensive than Yelp. So Chinese companies are matching American valuations. So what about, and the products have to be good for that. So let's come back to our 4 waves and evaluate product to product, product-wise, are Chinese AI products going to leapfrog American ones? And I will make some predictions. In the first wave, using internet data, I think generally speaking, Chinese internet companies will leapfrog the American ones. Not every single case. And the reason is when you have mobile and payment, when new innovations will come up because everyone can pay. There will be so many ways to make money, using the loan as an example. And also BAT, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, unlike Facebook, Microsoft, and Google, are less restricted by antitrust laws and are tenacious in terms of territory expansions. So every one of them is going to have a bank, an insurance company, and so on and so forth, much faster than the American counterparts. So I feel that value of data and value of higher quality AI will help the internet companies grow. Second wave, commercial data, that China lags the US, largely because large traditional Chinese companies never bothered to data warehouse their important content. Or if they did a very poor job. So for them to turn that into value is extremely difficult. Whereas companies like Element.ai, IBM Watson, Palantir are able to sell AI software on top of structured data stored by the American companies. The Chinese companies have yet to structurize their data, and that will take time. But the government is pushing them, policies are pushing them forward, and there's a chance to catch up in the future, but not for now. The third wave, digitizing the real world, I think China will leapfrog the US. I gave the shared bicycle example. So much more GPS and data is being transmitted. There's less concern about privacy. And also, it's about hardware, right? It's about building out the sensors. And in China, everything is a lot cheaper. So Tianmao Jingling it essentially is a product like the Amazon Echo. And it's now selling at $15 in China. The cameras, there's a company called Haikang Weishi, HK Vision. They sell $6 billion of surveillance cameras in China. $6 billion US of revenue. And you figure out how many cameras there are. And those cameras are all capturing high quality video on which you can do recognition and metadata gathering and AI predictions and face recognition. So those reasons, I think, generally speaking, will cause China to leap ahead. And then lastly, full automation. In terms of autonomous vehicles and robots, US is way ahead in technology. And by way ahead, we mean 2 years. That's really a long time. However, the Chinese companies are faster moving with government support, and also hardware production is lower cost. So we will see who ends up being ahead. I would say it's 50-50 at this point. So what about capital? I'll go quickly on this. On capital, lots of money going in, lots of AI companies on the left. But very notable to see is the Chinese government matching fund has dramatically been increased to 353 billion in last year. And what's a matching fund? A matching fund is the government becomes an LP in a VC fund with a willingness to take a lower return than other LPs. That is an encouragement for the top VCs to take government money and spend less time raising money and more time building great companies. And it's inspired by Israeli and Singaporean practices, which are very smart practices. And Chinese secondary market, somewhat similar to the US market, but much more, with much more, how shall we say this, irrational exuberance, I guess, than even the American market. Whenever a company is branded AI, even when it's not, the price goes crazy. So here I give an example of a company that actually has AI. It's the only one I know. All the other ones I think are fake, but this one is a speech recognition company, every bit arguably comparable to Nuance, but look at the gap of the market capitalization. It's now valued at $10 billion relative to Nuance, $4 billion, compared to just a few years ago, it was 2 to 1 the other way. And of course, HK Vision, the company that makes the cameras, is now market cap 50 billion. And then a company that makes dancing toy robots is valued at 5 billion, and so on and so forth. So a lot of capital flowing in, obviously creating some bubble, but also lots of fuel and lots of motivation for young, smart people to go and do AI. So lastly, what about the government programs? The government program, probably the most significant report, came out July of this year, and contrasted with Obama's report 1 year ago. You'll see that Obama's report was very rational and very reasoned about long-term resources, about regulations, about thinking about ethics and things like that. The Chinese report was very straightforward. By 2020, catch up on AI technology and applications. By 2030, become a global AI innovation hub. Okay, and and more recently, and it's typical of the 5-year planning approach China has taken. And more recently, in the 19th Congress speech, President Xi Jinping, in his speech, and quoted probably among the top 5 quotes of that entire 200-minute speech. Okay, there may be 5 quotes repeated. This is like the State of the Union address in the U.S. One of the 5 quotes was that develop advanced manufacturing, promote further integration of the internet, big data, artificial intelligence with the real-world economy. So he gets what we're talking about in terms of AI and the virtual world and real world combining. And if you're wondering, a white paper, does it actually have any teeth? Well, the Chinese policies generally are very well executed. In 2010, China claimed it will be the world's leader in high-speed rail. Many people were skeptical. In 6 years, 60% of the worldwide high-speed rail trains are in China. And then in 2015, Premier Li Keqiang declared a program called Shuangchuang. And Shuangchuang in English is Mass Entrepreneurship and Innovation Movement. It's about making everybody should be an entrepreneur. It's rather, how should we say, strong maybe in pushing everyone to do that. But let's just look at the result. The result is, in China, there are now 8,000 incubators, accelerators, up from 1,700 in just 1.5 years. And there are 156 high-tech science parks. So we can expect that the AI steps will turn into real. There are several cities talking to us, and some of it is quoted on Financial Times. And generally speaking, I think it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that municipal governments of 2nd and 3rd tier cities are prepared to put in $100, $200 million to incent AI companies from setting up in that city. So that's going to end up with results. And the last point I'll make is that the Chinese government in general is pro-tech. Right? When Alibaba came out, there were questions about how to deal with taxes, how to deal with can Alibaba go into banking and licenses and things like that. Chinese government has proven that when new technology comes out, they'll give it benefit of the doubt, let it grow for a while. If it takes off, then come back and look at it, as opposed to use policies to forbid things. And then on the right, the Chinese environment is more conducive for fast launch, fast iteration. I'm not making a comment that this is good or bad. I'm just stating a fact. This morning, we heard a lot about ethical considerations, bias issues. I think in China, the general belief is just launch something, get it iterated. There are problems, we'll fix it. And we'll get data and get better over time. And that spirit, I think, will launch China forward. And again, not commenting on whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, but will launch China forward to become a very strong AI power. So in conclusion, I think in this age of AI, the US-China duopoly is just not, I wouldn't say it's inevitable, it has already arrived. Thank you.